Let me just start off by saying that ever since I became a dad, I don't know what it is, but I just hate buying underwear. My dad was the exact same way. He always felt like the pair had just a little bit of more life to give. I think they would eventually just get holes and disintegrate. Like they were there one moment and then they would just disintegrate into thin air. That's just the way that we knew that we needed a new pair of underwear. I don't know why I'm talking about this. I tend to ramble with my intros sometimes. But anyways, all jokes aside, in today's video, I wanted to get a little bit hot and heavy here. And I will say, I don't want my channel to be misconstrued as like a negative channel by any stretch of the imagination, but sometimes I do feel like I have to call out certain things, and this has been kind of a recurring theme. It feels like I talk about this at least like twice a year, but basically I feel like a lot of the big content creators have not really been talking about this, and I do feel like there is a very particular reason, and I personally feel like they're wronging the community by not speaking out against this. But anyways, I'll give you guys a little bit of a brief background. The last couple, I would say like maybe the last 2 to 3 weeks, we've seen some pretty outrageous stuff happen. If you guys have kept up with it, if not, again, a brief little recap on it. McFarlane, for example, decided to release his little set based on the Joker film. It's supposed to come with 2 action figures. It has, you know, the live action set and then, you know, some furniture and some extra accessories and things of that nature. Most of the people that were talking about this set that maybe had a little bit of inside information or knew how the inner workings of manufacturing an action figure went basically said that the figure was supposed to be worth closer to like 110 to maybe 130, 140, and that even felt like it was pushing it. And there was, you know, like massive outcry from the community, from people on social media and small little content creators that made videos on this particular topic. And then eventually NECA did something very similar, where not only did they release an extremely overpriced diorama set, but they also had this widely publicized debacle where they accidentally sent extras to some collectors, which meant that other collectors obviously had not received theirs, and this had a huge domino effect on those that had not received their diorama set because they were having a very difficult time being able to communicate with NECA. And what was the tiny little T-Rex brain solution that NECA came up with? Well, they essentially decided to threaten the customers that had received an extra dio set. They had told them that they could either return it for a $100 credit or that they could potentially be charged for the extra dio set on top of being banned from picking up any NECA items or any collectibles in the foreseeable future, which I already kind of touched on in the previous video. It's very easy to get around that. Let's say hypothetically you decided to not send back the extra dio piece. You could easily just fight through your credit card to be able to cancel any future charges from NECA. And then also you could just use like your wife's credit card or your parents' credit card and then ship it to their address. There's absolutely no way for NECA to 100% effectively enforce a temporary ban from their customers purchasing their items. And clearly they're not going to be in person at like Targets and Walmarts barring people from buying anything. So I think it was kind of a very loose thread, but they were at the end of the rope. They really had a really bad publicity because of this entire situation, and they wanted a very quick fix. And like I said, I've kind of dissected this entire situation in my previous video, but I'll give you guys my 2 cents on it. First of all, I think that if you're a big giant consumer of NECA, I do feel like you should try to work with them, because I think there could be some big ramifications down the line. Like NECA could eventually, you know, have to like declare for bankruptcy, or, you know, they could potentially lose a license because they can't afford it. Again, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but I don't think that this is good for anybody. There are collectors that are going to be out an extra dio set, and again, you could get like that $100 credit added to your account for some future purchases, which is like 2 NECA action figures. It's really not that bad, but as I said, I'm not really going to tell anybody how to handle their business. I do feel that NECA just mishandled the entire situation, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about the lack of attention or the lack of scrutiny from a lot of big content creators. And granted, by the time I'm uploading this video, most of them, if not all of them, have already at least addressed this entire situation, both situations, at least to a certain extent. But a lot of these guys were really dragging their feet. They really did not want to get into the depths of this conversation. A lot of them were actually almost semi-offended that their consumer, or I should say their fan base, was kind of clamoring. They were sending them emails, they were sending them kind of like strongly worded comments demanding that they cover or talk about this particular topic or these topics. And it was just very interesting because a lot of these content creators were like offended. They were almost upset at the fact that they had to talk about something like this. And to be brutally honest, I think it's a bad look for them. I get it. They get a ton of free stuff from these OMs, whether it's NECA or McFarlane. A lot of these content creators get items from them pretty consistently for free. But let's not forget, the fans are the ones that put you in that position. It's not like you just randomly started receiving free product from these manufacturers. You actually had to build up your reputation. You had to build up your foundation, your fan base. And because they're consumers, because they're the ones purchasing or holding up these companies on their shoulders, I think it's wrong that you didn't at least address the situation, at least kind of fill in everybody on what's happening. It seems like it was mostly like the smaller, tiny content creators. I'll include myself in there. I don't get a ton of views like a lot of these other content creators that have, you know, tens of thousands of subscribers and potentially even hundreds of thousands. They consistently get, you know, 20, 30, 10,000 views per video. Those were the people that I think a lot of the community was hoping to hear from, and it took forever. In some cases, some of these content creators haven't even gotten around to addressing these situations, and I feel like it's a little bit sad and incredibly disappointing considering I am subscribed to a lot of these content creators. And to further add insult to injury, a lot of these content creators just decided to throw the topic into one of like their weeklies or one of their like longer style contents, maybe like a stream, and they just kind of sprinkled the topic in there, which I don't think is like the worst thing in the world. But I will say it's interesting because there are other situations where these content creators make like specific videos. Like if there's just an example, sometimes they'll make like a Hasbro live stream, or McFarlane will announce a really big wave, and they'll decide to make one video just for that particular wave or for that particular stream. So I know most of them will just use the excuse, well, you know, I only upload, you know, this type of content on a weekly or a semi-weekly or bi-weekly basis. So, you know, that's one of the main reasons why I didn't cover it. But we have seen them make videos specifically for one topic. And it's just sad to see this. It's sad that they just kind of like spent 2-3 minutes talking about this particular situation when I felt like you could have easily made an entire video, especially for these guys that have a lot of inside information. They probably talk to a lot of the representatives. They probably talk to the CEOs. A lot of these guys have potentially interviewed McFarlane or met him in person and had like full-on conversations with him, and maybe a lot of the NECA representatives. So this particular ordeal could have been handled better by them, and those are the people that we look up to. I mean, a lot of us are just kind of on the outside looking in. We don't have all that information. We're just going off of what people are saying on social media or other YouTube channels. Or in the case of NECA, we would have never known unless we had actually, you know, gotten screenshots of the actual email. And look, I'm not expecting them to sit on a hilltop and just condemn these OMs. I understand that there's somewhat of a professional relationship in there, so they have to be semi-neutral in their approach. But the bare minimum they could do is inform the public. Let them know what is exactly that's happening. Break it down without being too harsh on the OMs, if that's even possible. Like I said, I understand their position. I understand that they're, you know, backed up against a wall to a certain extent. But at the same time, you have a responsibility to your fan base. These are the people that, you know, lift you up. These are the people that have supported you for perhaps even years. And it just feels like you were semi-dishonest by not covering the topic, or essentially being forced into it. Like I said, there were a ton of different content creators that I watched videos of, and they actually like addressed it in their video, like in the intro, stating, you know, everybody's asking me for this, so I might as well do it. But at the same time, like I said, it felt like they were forced into the situation rather than them kind of addressing it and taking it on head first. And I will say, I'm not going to talk about any names. I'm not going to name any of the content creators or the channels, because that's not how I roll. But I'm sure if you are at least somewhat familiar with the community, you know exactly the content creators that did this. And they were quite a few. Like I said, all of the big ones seem to kind of avoid the topic for a long stretch of time. And I'm not going to say that all of them, because I do feel like there are some great content creators out there. You know, I've even made videos where I mention my favorite action figure collecting channels. So regardless of their personal perspective or their stance, I love their content. I watch them pretty consistently. I absolutely enjoy them. I'm subscribed. I probably don't leave as many comments as I wish I could, but you know, there are some great content creators out there, and I've talked about them incessantly, and just how entertaining they are, you know, just talking about collectibles. But like I said, there were quite a few that just kind of avoided the entire situation. I think it's honestly, it's a little bit frustrating as, you know, a big giant consumer myself. As a fan, I kind of expected a little bit more, but this is just my personal opinion, my personal take. I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say, not only about these content creators not covering the whole debacle, but also the situation with NECA. I know I already made a video and we kind of talked about a little bit about it, but what do you guys think about the NECA situation? What about McFarlane? Do you guys feel like it's overpriced? Do you feel like it's adequately priced? Let me know down below in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, if you guys enjoy this type of rambling action figure content, make sure to stay tuned. We do this pretty consistently, probably like 3 to 4 times on a weekly basis. Stay safe out there, and I know it's the holiday season, so stop munching. You know, take that food out of your mouth, go run a mile, do something productive, and as always, make sure to enjoy the hobby. Pose your action figures, photograph them, just enjoy them, have fun. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.